good. Alright, and this is a new beginning. And you will see it in 5, 4,
Nobody cares about
3.
this intro. This is stupid.
Why not? It was unique.
Because first 5 seconds you're seeing the roof of the car. Nobody cares.
It was the beautiful skies of Delhi.
शीशे के बाहर देख लेंगे लोग.
There's bad traffic today. Bad traffic. So we are reaching late despite me warning Garima 180 times that we have to reach.
I'd rather not do this today if this is going to be our tone. I'm not interested.
And we are in a different car, so I am also holding this
Wow, कितनी मेहनत कर रही है
camera,
ना.
so you might see a bit of this.
What do you
So
want to
Garima, what are we going to talk about today? This lovely Monday morning.
I'm going to talk about the lack of coffee in my system right now because
But you have tea right here.
it's not coffee, clearly. There are times for chai in the morning, there's time for coffee. The details.
What is this? What is that called?
It's called a butt chin.
So today we are going to talk about butt chins and the history of butt chins. How did they come to be? Today we can do interesting things. We can show you. Oh wait, sorry, maybe not. Do you see Siracha? Well, you don't because she's fast asleep. You don't. And today we can also show you traffic. Welcome to Delhi traffic.
Arnav.
People are thinking you're crazy.
Arnav let the camera go because he just got tired, because he's got weak arms. Arnav, you need to work out.
No, because I have better things to do than hold a fucking hold a camera all day long. Actually, no,
Now
sorry.
we're at a long red light, so I thought, let me show you a different angle of Arnav just lounging. Not doing much, but still having problems. And I'm literally at the driver's seat and I'm holding the camera also right now. This is the level of incompetence when it comes to production.
Oh yeah, and your competence is you put it on a stand. Wow.
Oh my god, काम की बात नहीं करनी, बस यही करते रहना है. गोल 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 गोल.
Okay, so today we're talking about hiring. So how do write in the comments below, how do you like to
बहुत you put too much बेमतलब की बातें and no not enough बातें. It's just बेमतलब. बेमतलब ही रख देते हैं शो का नाम. कुछ नहीं है काम का.
Okay, so let's start.
Doggo has gotten up. You can see her. Maybe that's a more interesting view.
Telling you that I've been, as part of my first job, our boss was always like, most important skill, everyone has to know it, and like it's not a thing left for just HR or a separate department. Everyone needs to know it, and you need to be.
पकड़ लेना लाइट है गाड़ी तो चलाने दे.
And you need to be. So the most important thing that I look at is the rapport and the vibe that and the dynamics in that setting. You know, so it's not about skill, of course, yes, but skill is not primary in my stream of hiring. Also because maybe depends on what you're hiring for. Now I've always hired for like generalist or not very technical roles. So obviously skill is not necessarily.
हाँ, but skill तू बोल रहा है कि you are talking about experience in that particular role. You don't mean कि skill नहीं है. Or is that what you mean?
No, I mean what is the primary thing I look for is not skill, is not technical knowledge, is not any of that. It's just as individuals, how are people and how are they getting along with me and how am I getting along with them. That's the primary thing I talk about, and I try, and I've seen a few people, and probably this is a learnt behavior when I've always seen people get an understanding of the individual from a overall perspective and not just their professional background or what they see professionally, but also understand their life circumstances, their family circumstances, where they come from, what they like to do, what they don't like to do. So a lot of my conversations actually about those things, and that's why anyone who hasn't interviewed me is like, ये तो आपने interview तो किया ही नहीं, time pass किया है. So but that's how that's the key metric that I use. And usually when you're hiring for specific roles where there is some amount of bare minimum knowledge or skill required, or not required but would be beneficial, then of course someone else always checks for those things.
So you look for For me, body.
Vibe, bro, vibe. I look for the vibe.
That's rather vague.
Vibe.
कुछ तो specific होगा ना, लेकिन what are you hoping to find when you're having that conversation in that person?
Oh, so
Like, what are you trying to assess?
No, that's what I'm saying. Whether this individual would be someone that would fit well in the existing team and would like to work with people like us. Of course, it's very tough to also judge in like 2-1 hour conversations.
But सिर्फ ये तो नहीं check करता ना तू अर्नव. This is one part of it. But it's not like you'll just hire anybody you get along with. That's what
I'm not.
like right now.
No, of course not.
So
that's not the case.
So then what? What else? एक तो ये हो गया, चलो ठीक है.
So
Team
then,
play. Basically, you're looking at somebody who can work in a team.
yeah, if you
gets along with our style of working.
so if you define it in such a narrow way, then yeah.
Oh my God. What you call narrow, I call precise, because otherwise it is just random conversations you're having with people and judging on the basis of what right now. There has to be some.
I understand what you're saying. It might come across like. No. Yes, first thing I test for is team dynamics and the ability of being a good team player. The second thing.
केस स्टडी लिख रहा है क्या अभी स्कूल के लिए? गेस्ट लेक्चर देने गए हैं करना.
मैंने honestly ये टॉपिक ना ट्रिकी टॉपिक है और ये
tricky है इसमें?
We have to tread carefully on this topic.
Why do you have to tread carefully on this topic? Please explain to me.
Because of reasons I cannot mention.
Why? What are these reasons?
So okay, Karma, how do you hire?
Okay, so मेरा पहला actually my first round is always like.
Why are you speaking like this in this weird way, yeah?
I'm not speaking in a weird way.
Yeah, you are. You're like so conscious in front of the camera.
Really not.
Yeah. Okay, go on.
Okay.
Go on. Go on.
I am. You're the one who's interrupting me. I was sticking to the topic.
गाड़ी आगे देख के चलाते हैं.
तो चुप रहे ना फिर. क्या कह रही थी मैं?
No one wants to listen to this interlude, yeah. Come on, fasten your space up. Yeah.
You're the one who's causing the interlude. Are you not understanding? You're the one who's creating it. This is just going to be a video of us fighting. I don't know what you're trying to do.
This is not fighting, it's banter.
It's really not. Okay.
It's entertaining banter.
Nothing, my thing. I actually like doing the technical wala thing pehle.
Got it.
Before you get it. I'm not asking for commentary. What I'm saying. बोलूंगे नहीं बोलूं?
हाँ बोल.
So I like doing the technical route pehle because then it's like a bare minimum that you need to kind of know this. But technical wala also, it's not like we're at a stage right now that we're hiring people who are really into that line of work for a number of years.
This is the first time you're hiring people, or even your previous roles at Budweiser, at other places, you hired people?
No, first time I'm hiring properly, yeah.
Properly means?
As in like, I've been part of the process in like other places, but never like had the sole, like like the person who has the final say on it. So obviously, that's a very unique situation. You're never really going to be in that. Yeah. So first I like doing the technical wala because then that's like, okay, this is something that we want to proceed with. And then after that, then I like doing a few rounds around general.
Few rounds? How many rounds do you do?
Few rounds, मतलब मैं एक, तू एक. If there's somebody else on the team that it might benefit both people on the team plus the person to kind of get a sense of, so they can also interact. To get a real picture on कि काम actually क्या है, what it's like working with the team.
That's very true. So that I in fact, a lot of my conversation, that's a very, very good point, and I didn't mention it because
you sucked and you were taking it as a joke.
That's true. But a lot of my conversation, I think it's 50-50, where 50% of the time I talk about the role and what our expectations will be. So that I feel is the most critical part of the interview process. Because that's what I mean about the match. It's not just one-sided, like I need to understand if you are good enough to be in this. That's not the approach. And that in my mind is never the right approach. Because if and everything depends on context. I am a big believer. Like if you are in a certain phase of life, excited about certain thing, and you are just willing to go at it, you will be. Of course, once the basic things are met, then you will be good at that. So it's about understanding whether they are in the right space to create impact in the thing that you want them to.
And vice versa, na? Matlab,
Correct, exactly.
In the sense that it can't just be that they are in a space and we are not, and it can't just be that we are in that space and they are not.
Of course, and that is why 50% of the time is spent talking about the role.
That's great. Wonderful, I'm glad. But I think but that's with the conversations I also have. But I like doing that one skill wala check pehle hi, so that then it's a.
But how do you do the skill check, and what is
like
the skill
an assignment?
check?
So even for marketing and tech, two things that I look at hiring for.
Tech, so I'm guessing, of course, yes, that would be.
No, even for marketing. I think the same principle applies no matter what role it is. You basically just want to see is that person able to solve a realistic problem that they might face in the role. Tech में obviously it's going to be say something like a coding problem or whatever. In terms of कि अच्छा हमें ये इस type का feature बनाना है, how would you create a working prototype for that? In marketing, can you please, Arnav, you're really bad at this, bro. Like थोड़ा angle ठीक कर ले.
मेरा हाथ दर्द कर रहा है.
तो find a solution.
Yeah, go on.
Marketing वाले में भी same है. मतलब it's basically putting that same principle there that okay, if you are in say a content role or if you are say in a video role, this is realistically what it would mean to be on the team. So and then you give an assignment close to that, and that's then you see how they process it. It's not so much कि final product कितना final output जो है वो कितना अच्छा है जो भी है, but one is understanding what they understood from what you told them, what the outcome was, because obviously some things are things that you learn on the job, right? For example, for a marketing thing, it's not going to be okay, if somebody is interviewing, then they will immediately understand what our brand is and what our colors are and what our tone is and all of that. But you want to see what they interpreted your brief to them as and how they kind of delivered on that. That is one. The other thing that I've started really trying to at least, and I don't know if I'm successful at it or not, but एक वो है कि if I like putting a question around or at least putting a filter in my mind around, is this person somebody who is willing to take feedback? I think and I mean this is honestly something that just comes from my own experiences as well, where I have not been somebody who's been willing to take feedback a lot of times because you get rigid about मेरे को पता है कैसे करना है, क्या करना है, जो भी करना है, and you learn with time that you're an idiot if you think like that, and you don't listen to other people's feedback and inputs and all of that. So that's something I don't like test for as a specifically in terms of are you good at taking feedback, but you know in that discussion of अच्छा assignment अगर आया उसके बाद then a discussion around how would you do this better, or is there something that you think you can improve, or if I were to tell you this, how would you do this or whatever, because you need to have several rounds of iteration before anything is perfect, and perfect also is an illusion. You have to keep working at it. So that's something that I like kind of making part of the interview process only, because otherwise it's not a good realization to have after you hired somebody that this person is not willing to take feedback. Then it becomes obviously.
So you obviously had prepped your entire thoughts and things so that you sound very normal and I sound like a freaking idiot while I said all this. Because I am like, ये तो बड़ा हाँ बंदा सही है तो hire कर लेते. And you are all like, oh, I see you look at 1, 2, 3. So this conversation, you obviously did.
I'm just distracted because you're looking at yourself.
But anyway, I think it all depends on context, and right now you're hiring for an early stage startup with a certain requirement. When you 6 months down the line or 2 years down the line, when it's a different stage, hopefully it is much more progressed, and depends, you're hiring a senior management versus you're hiring a entry level person, whatever, it completely varies, right? So context ultimately would decide, I would imagine, a lot of these things. Yeah. But from our perspective, we're talking about sort of early stage, first set of hires, first 10 to 50 people. I think that's what you're referring to, right? Or do you think
Yes,
this
Arnav, I did give that context before talking
Or do you-
about
no,
it.
no,
But I'm
I-
giving you a chance. Why don't you correct your thoughts now?
no,
if
no,
you want
I
to really
was-
sound more polished.
No, I was going to ask you that do
Yeah,
you
tell
think
me.
it's going to be different, or do you think this is you found your way and it's going to be this?
Obviously not. ऐसे तो कोई भी claim नहीं कर सकता. I think वो तो मतलब I'm literally doing this for the first time. It's not like I'm saying कि यही है और ऐसा ही है और इससे better कुछ हो नहीं सकता. And you can't just learn. I think along with every conversation you're having with a potential person on the team, you also learn that okay, if I were to ask a question a certain way, maybe it does better. Or do I need to do this round pehle or this round pehle, or do I test for this or do I test for that? You start kind of, I mean, it's like a muscle. You work at it to kind of understand कि okay, this is what works. So, वो तो obviously वो improve.
Actually, मेरा experience
होगा
different
every
है because what I have and the style that I follow is what I have seen primarily where I was earlier, which was a setup which was where the top boss was sort of interviewing everyone and everyone was in a generalist role. So the setup was very, can you find individuals that are willing to sort of just make it happen, not necessarily मतलब of course you do qualify for certain skills and technical, वो तो मैं बोल ही रहा हूँ, मतलब I'm assuming that is a given, but that doesn't hold that much importance where you're not willing to give the individual's personality, individual's ambitions.
But I think that's always going to be a thing. I
But
personally
where does
don't
it
feel-
come? Like you restrict, if that person can't qualify a certain quality of technical skills, you immediately reject them, right?
Yeah.
I probably don't reject them immediately. Because if their drive, if their motivation, if their ambition, if they're willing to make it work and they just want to join you, and vice versa, you get that thing from them, then you would be willing to give it a chance. But in your case, you would be like, sorry, technical doesn't qualify. So
But I think it's also a factor of what roles you're hiring for.
of course. That's why I'm saying
For
generalist.
ops,
Correct.
You can do with generalist. For a
Correct.
tech role where you're hiring for somebody who's
Correct.
coding on a specific
Exactly.
language, you can't have somebody who's just motivated, na? If they're not, I mean, proficient in the language that they have to work on. Same thing with marketing as well. If somebody can't, again, it's just languages, right? Either आप क्या कर रहे हो, मतलब either you're writing code in that language or you're talking. It's basically what are you doing? It's the same thing.
True that.
Like English and whatever, like CSS and HTML and all of that, they're all just like languages.
That is true. That is true.
It is, bro.
I'm a generalist. You are?
I'm tired.
Alright, on that note, I think this has been an enlightening conversation and my arm is really aching now. So,
You weak.
you weak, like,
You weak, bro. You weak. ऑफिस में रखे हैं हमने एक पेयर डंबल्स के.
Dumbbell?
रोज कसरत किया करो, कसरत.
I thought you were gonna say वो gimbal पकड़ा, gimlet रखा हुआ है. Gimbal, what do you call it?
Gimbal.
हाँ,
Gimlet is that podcast company.
Okay.
Come on.
Produced by Gimlet. This show was sponsored by Gimlet because they have now agreed to take on us as their content
Flag कर
creators.
देंगे as
Report.
fake news.
All right. So if you learned about hiring, good for you. If you didn't, great for you. If you generally thought this was a waste of your time, then good for you.
We said it it's in the name.
There's a clear disclaimer at
है ना?
the beginning of
इसीलिए
every. So if you
Keep your expectations low.
ओए ध्यान से भाई.
क्या कर रहा है अर्नव? तू ही डिस्ट्रैक्ट कर रहा है और तू ही एक्साइट हो रहा है फालतू में. कुछ नहीं हुआ है. Irritate.